I just want to formally welcome everyone to Screenshot. We're super excited to be launching this and figuring out creative ways to keep our community engaged and intact, and also feeling supported during this time. So this is the first of a 6 weeks of virtual artist talk led by Scope of Work. And so the goal of Screenshot is to highlight both SOW members and veteran creatives. And what they're talking about is like the ways they're maintaining their creative identities through this global crisis and pandemic. And it's really meant to be an intimate window into the artist's work and their creative process in the privacy of their homes. And so Screenshot is going to be taking place twice a week for the next 6 weeks, and will always feature a SOW member and a POC creative, veteran creative. And then each session is 30 minutes long and will feature an artist. And they're going to be presenting their work, answering a series of questions, and they're going to share at least one skill or tool or best practice related to the art form. And then we'll have a Q&A after. So as I said before, everyone, when you enter the room, you'll be muted just to ensure that the speaker has they can present uninterrupted. And then if you have any questions or comment, you can use the chat option, which is on the bottom of your screen, or you can raise your hand and then we'll unmute you and you can ask your question directly to Gery. So we're absolutely thrilled for Gery Vargas to kick us off. Gery's a new SOW member this year. She's an architect and exhibit designer based in New York. Her work is informed by exploring materials, landscapes, and culture through graphics and technology, and as a method to speculate alternative ways to experience and inhabit space. So I'm gonna let Gery take it away.
Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy. I'm Gery again, and I'm really excited to share some of my work and like the things that I've been doing and some processes that I've been kind of curating during this time. I just would like to start off by like explaining some how my journey has been. So I would say that like my journey as a creative really has taken momentum when I had the chance to go to school at Syracuse University, and there I studied architecture for 5 years. And I think there is where I really had the time and space to kind of curate some skills, to really think about the practice and almost to like challenge the practice. And I see all of that as a way of me finding my own voice as a designer. But even before then, I think I was always really creative and like curating. One thing that I'm going to show you guys is this mood board. I was really into like creating mood boards and collages as a kind of a way to express myself, I think when I was like 15 or 16. So it's nice to kind of look back at old work and see that growth and like kind of like where you want to go as a creative. And now within my creative career, I've been able to work as a designer at like architecture firms, at experiential firms, as well as like a fashion brand. And I'll also jump into a couple of those details later on in the presentation. But right now I'm in Jersey. I'm at my mom's place in Harrison and trying to stay healthy. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I did lose my job. And to be honest, it was like a very, very scary and like upsetting moment. But I think it's really allowed me to curate like routines. So the main routine being kinder to myself. So it's putting less pressure to really be productive and doing work, but also, you know, working out a little bit, doing a face mask. And then the other routine has been about how to evolve as a designer. So it's been about how to move forward with my portfolio and also doing really fun projects with some friends and collaborating on that. So yeah, so now I would like to show you some of this work that I'm talking about. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, let me go full screen mode. Cool. So yeah, so this presentation is going to be mostly about my process and also how I'm collaborating. Right now, even though we're very much apart, I'm still finding ways and like fun ways to collaborate with friends. This is the piece that I mentioned before, that it's really, really funny to look at this. This I found in my mom's place, cleaning out and like kind of going through things. I think I made this when I was like 15 or 16. And I was really into collecting fabrics, and I was really into like going through magazines and like cutting things up and putting it together. And I think this was like a very liberating thing to see and to do at the time. It was just like no pressure of making money, no pressure of like having a client, none of that. It was just about like making things and using my hands. And it's really been an evolution to this image, which is a rendering from a series that I made for my thesis project. And here really I taught myself how to digitally sculpt. So here, and I think in the past 5 years, it's really been about exploring the skill of digitally designing, representation, of like rendering. And I think it's just sparked that curiosity to keep learning. And I think I brought a lot of these like skills, and I just like still this push forward to learn at a lot of the places that I've been able to work at. So I've interned at Chromat and Architects, that is a fashion brand, and it's also an architecture office, as well as being able to freelance at Bureau V and F&A, which are more traditional architecture firms that also have an aspect of research. And as of lately, being an exhibit designer at the Museum of Ice Cream, so it's designing more kind of smaller scale things and designing more with the aspect of like a customer and people touching objects and really interacting with the space. And I think the one thing that I loved about all of these experiences and all of these spaces that I've been at is just the fact of that I've been able to collaborate with different types of designers. I think that's definitely influenced my own work as I'm creating like projects and as I'm like adding kind of things to like my agenda. This is the work that I'm currently working on. So like my work in progress, my whip work. If I go from left to right, this is the rock show. It's a little poster that I've made for this exhibit that I'm working with my friend Nico, and we're hoping to open it at the end of this year. It's going to be a cool exhibit informed by geology and rocks. In the middle, it's a screenshot of this home and interior design project that I'm revisiting for my portfolio. And then to the right, BYB, which is a furniture design project that I've started with my partner, Justin, and I will be highlighting this project. And it really just started from the fact of one of us moving right before the pandemic and thinking, if we had the resources to have furniture, if we had the resources to furnish, especially during this crisis, what would the furniture look like? And if we could design it, like what would it look like? So if I could visualize how we've started to work and collaborate, because I am in Jersey and he's in Brooklyn still, it would kind of look like this. It really starts with a sketch, which is part of the concept design. And it's a 2D sketch that he usually presents to me, which is plan and elevation. It's a little bit more graphic. And then I kind of bring that into 3D, and we start doing 3D sketches. The program that I use is Rhino, which I will show you guys a little bit more of what that looks like to develop, to see what works, to see what functions. Also, within this 3D world, we're looking at materials. So like, what could this object be made of? And the render process. So what can like the really nice photo, like really nice representation of that object look like? And right now we're really seeing within the realms of like the concept and schematic design, just because it gives us more space to play around with things. Further along, the design and development and the construction and development really talks about how to make these things into real objects, which would be a goal after this pandemic, but it's creating drawings that are more technical. So like with dimensions, as well as how do we present this idea to like people that can actually build it to manufacturers. So a lot of these pieces, a lot of the pieces that we've designed is we're looking at landscapes, we're looking at artifacts, and we're looking at paintings that really inspire our aesthetic, but also the language. From rocks, of like how do these rocks sit on top of each other, how are they rough, how are they smooth, as well as Pottery, these are Chimu potteries, which is a pre-Incan civilization in Peru. And just looking at the motifs that they're using, the types, the color of the material, and even artwork. This is a piece that inspired one of our wardrobes that we made. And I'm going to highlight this piece right now. As you can see, it's a very simple like sketch of the view from above of the plan, and a view from the side of the elevation. And it just starts off with this. It's he was inspired by this painting, just like the frame of this painting by Irving Herrera, who's an artist from Oaxaca. And then, so I received this image, and then this is a screenshot of literally how we work. And then I just bring this image into Rhino, and I share my screen on Google Hangouts. So this is the view that he's getting. And we're just really just communicating as we're designing. And I think the really nice thing about this is because I have the skills to 3D design, and he wants to learn that, you know, he can see what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and we can talk about every step. So it starts by just bringing the sketch in and then creating many iterations. So here you can see like it's not just one that we're making, we're like testing out the legs of this table, we're testing out the materials, we're testing out combination of colors. So it takes like a lot of tables to get to the one that we actually want to finalize and produce. And then bringing it into also a rendering program so that we get those like really nice images with like nice lighting and material. And then this, from there, we get to like these kind of final images, or final for right now, of the object. So this piece specifically has like a terrazzo countertop, and then the legs would be a nice metal. So that's the side view, and this is the top view. And if anything, right now, this is kind of like where we put it on hold, where we almost put it in archive as we produce more objects. The goal, like I said before, would be to create more like technical drawings, like as we move forward. Because right now it's really fun. There's like no pressure from anyone or anything to really make these a certain way or make these like sellable at all. It's just for us and like what would we like to see and what would we like to have in our homes. But this is kind of like this next step of like creating drawings similar to this that really talks about the detail of like how much will a certain piece bend, like how tall something is, and then we can talk to manufacturers and then we can go back and forth. But yeah, if anything, I think out of this presentation, I would, if you can get anything from it, is I would like to share a lot of these programs, and right now you can download a lot of trials if you're into modeling or even like 2D programs. Like these are all kind of tools that as designers I think we use like in our back pocket. It's like we have the concept, but to make it real we kind of need some help from these programs. And if you're a student, there's also a lot of free subscriptions, so I would really look into that. YouTube tutorials are always free, so like downloading the program, and if you want to learn how to even do like one command, like one move, just like Googling it, and everything there will be accessible. As well as I've been doing personally some tutorials. I've been joining this group 31. They're based in the Lower East Side, and they're hosting tutorials every Friday. Last Friday I did one for Cinema 4D, and it's donation based. It's kind of this idea of like creatives helping creatives. And yeah, I think if you're able to do so, I think it's a really nice also community to talk to other people. But yeah, I think I will end it there. And questions, if you have any questions, I'd love to answer those.
So Jorge he's asking what kind of computer specs work best for 3D work?
Well, I have right now, I have a ThinkPad. I can get you the specs if I dig through my settings, but I do have a NVIDIA graphics card. So it does take a little bit of computer power. And yeah, I think the ThinkPad is one computer that I really like, but I think if you have a Mac as well, I think that will be just fine. It's a matter of just really honestly just closing some programs or closing a lot of like all your windows and just having that 3D program so that you're able to play around. But yeah, I will get you the specs once I dig through my computer.
Cool. Any questions? Let me see. From Darren, do you feel like you have a magic number you try to hit when creating iterations, or you just play it by ear?
Honestly, it's like playing by ear. I think the magic minimum number is 3. It's, I think the least amount of iterations have been 3 objects, but I think it's just a matter of, it's like this feeling, right? You like know when something's like just right. And the more, I think after 3 iterations, like certain things start to like replicate. And once that happens, I think it's like nice to step back and being like, why do I like this thing that keeps showing up? And then ultimately it's what you think represents the object the best. So it's like this weird innate feeling of like, oh, that feels nice.
This is from Geneva. How did you know you wanted to be an architect?
That was a funny route. I think it came from like my dad wanting to be an architect. He came here from Peru when he was like 20, and that was like a dream that he always had. And I think my low-key goal was to be in fashion, but I think the amount of influence that design and like spatial design really had on people and like communities, like lower income communities, was really, that amount of power was like really important to kind of speak on. So in high school, there was a program, an architecture program that I was able to do to kind of like dip my toes in that. And then it just kind of naturally happened that once it was time to think about potentials of schools, I was like, oh, well, I'm doing this already, so I might as well keep exploring that. So I think that's how it was, like a happy accident.
I love that you're like fulfilling your dad's like dream and following kind of his vision. So
Yeah.
Mitson asked, are you familiar with Blender, and would you recommend this program for beginners?
Blender, yeah, I think a lot of the talk with Blender is that it's nice because it's free and it's accessible. In terms of user-friendly quality, like I would compare Blender. I also use ZBrush, and then there's Maya and then Cinema 4D. Like Maya is more like industry standards, so for people who animate. ZBrush and Blender are very similar, but ZBrush you have to pay, and then Cinema 4D is very user-friendly, but also it's you have to pay for that program. So if you can like dedicate that time for Blender to learn, because there's like so many like there's a lot that you can do, I would say definitely use it. It's like a good starting point. I think if you can navigate yourself in one program, it's very easy to like catch up on the other programs.
This is from Madi. As a creative, what is one thing you learned from this pandemic? Good question.
I guess, I don't know, it's really, I think it's very been introverted as a creative questioning of like, I mean, I think I'm gonna hit like a couple points. One, which has been like the scary thing of like, oh, how am I gonna pay my bills as a creative, right? I think job security has always been like a scary thing for people that are doing maybe not conventional types of work. So I think that has been one thing that's like, so right now as a designer, how will I kind of secure myself like moving forward? Because there's been so much talk about like the digital realm, right? Specifically for an architecture designer, it's like very much based on like real life buildings and real life spaces. So what skills as a designer do I have, and what can I acquire to be maybe more in a way like more hireable, which sounds like a little bit messed up, but just for that job security, it's been like, what can I learn so that I'm able to go back into it. But also, I think the most important thing, if anything, is like my values. Like, so many people are like going through really rough times. It's like, how can I help, right? Like, how can I help the community? Like, where do I stand on this? And yeah, like, what, once this is, right now it feels like you can't do a lot, but once this is like, we can go back out, like, what can I do to help my neighborhood, my community of creatives, my family? So it's been a lot of just like, yeah, it's been a lot of thinking and a lot of planning almost.
And this is from Jorge. What CAD programs do you use?
For CAD, I have, I still have the student version actually for CAD, and it's the 2019. So like I said, the Autodesk does free subscriptions for students. So if you have like a student email, you're able to sign up. And yeah, I've just been using, the nice thing about Rhino and CAD, or a lot of 3D programs, is that you can bring these objects, and it's line work, because CAD is a line work based, a vector based program. You can bring a lot of these things into CAD and vice versa. So it's nice being able to kind of go back and forth and know that flow. I think is really important.
This is from Mitson. What resources, books, sites, etc. do you recommend to anyone interested in objects, spatial design, etc.?
Let's see. I've been using, because we're all on our phones, I'm guilty of it too, of just being on my phone all the time. I'm using just a lot of like Instagram, of just archiving. Like, once you're on one, for us, one furniture design website, or like one sort of like page, it kind of leads and spirals into many others. But I think, like, I think it's been like a habit, being in like the architecture design world, of just checking like Design every morning, or checking like Architectural Digest, or checking Arc Daily, and these blogs. It's nice that, which is more of like a graphic design, but I feel like as designers, we're all interconnected some way. So I think those have been like my key, like Design, it's nice that, and then on Instagram, just like checking like Home Union. It has, if you go on Home Union on Instagram, it's like a spiral of like all these other spatial design, like object-based artists.
Any more questions for Gery?
Let me,
There's some good ones here.
I'll share my info with you guys too, if you have any questions, or if you wanted to stay connected. This is my Instagram, my email, so like anything at all, just feel free to shoot out any questions, or yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Gery. This is a very strong start to our screenshot series. I think it's just like really interesting to one, just to see everyone and connect on this level, but also just to see how you're working, and share some of your like techniques of how you're doing your work, but even just like knowing where to start. So it's been really great to hear your story and see your process.
Yeah,
I'm very
I'm so
impressed.
happy to
I want that
share.
table.
Maybe one day.
So unless there are any kind of questions, I think we have just like a few more minutes left. We have 1 more minute left. Let us know how everyone felt. This is including you, Gery, and we're going to send a survey out at the end of the week once we do our artist talk for Thursday. Let us know what y'all thought of this setup, and if there's anything, you know how we like to do like pros and cons and what worked. but we're going to send a survey out. Obviously want to get better and improve every week. But I feel like, Gery, you killed it. You're very prepared, and it was really great to hear your story and for you to kick us off. Geneva, do you want to chime in at all? She's in the background somewhere.
Hi. I just want to say that Wayne O'Hara Reed has officially accepted that he will be next week's Artist Talk. So very excited about that. Yeah, great job, Gery. And we love you all.
Thank you.
Oh, we have one. Oh, I love your presentation layout from Ida.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Blue color.
That also took a lot of iterations. So.
Yes. Yeah, presenting your work in a strong way is key. And then we have a screenshot session on Thursday. We're super excited about our veteran creative that's going to be sharing with you all. So hopefully we see everyone here on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gery.
Bye, guys. Stay safe.
Bye.